There is no questioning the importance of fresh water and its necessity for the sustainment of life.
Unfortunately, the availability of water is on a consistent decline. That would be bad news anywhere, but it is definitely not welcome in a state where 27% of its land is used for agricultural production.
Here in the southern part of the state, we have very few of our own sources of fresh water. What some Southern Californians may not know is that we rely on water brought down from the northern part of the state, more specifically from the Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta.
The Delta is a region where two of the state's largest rivers meet. Freshwaters mingle with the saltwater of the Pacific Ocean, creating the West Coast's largest estuary.
California gets all its waters from the rain and snow, which mostly fall on the northern part of the state. These waters then run through streams into California's two major rivers, the Sacramento River in the north and the San Joaquin River in the south. These rivers come together at the San Joaquin Delta, which is the largest estuary on the west coast. Although the delta is just 1% of California's landmass, it holds the responsibility of supplying water to millions of people and farms. In the early 1800s, the San Joaquin Delta used to be a freshwater marsh full of canals and islands. It was also an ecosystem for a diverse species of plants and animals. The wetlands found in the delta were at high tide levels, so they collected organic matter gradually as sea level increased. The natural levee was able to maintain the marsh to grow at a similar pace to the rising sea level. However, during the gold rush, people needed to find ways to feed the miners. In the 1850s, the delta began to develop when the government passed the Swamp and Overflow Land Act. This act permitted the states to sell the wetlands that were unfit for cultivation to private landholders for a low cost. The farmers reclaimed the delta and drained the marshes into dry lands for farms and agricultural purposes. Farmers then began to build levees in order to keep the farms going and protect the delta islands from submerging below the water. After World War I, more than 90% of the delta's historic marshlands had been lost, and the remainings were reclaimed and transformed into levee channels that are known today.
The Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta supplies water to about 2/3 of all people in California and millions of acres of irrigated farmland, but to what cost? The Delta's ecosystem is in danger from many factors, but the main reason is the amount of water that is pumped out of the Delta. The Delta is a floodplain estuary, which is supposed to be among the most productive ecosystems in the planet, but due to the massive amounts of water being pumped out of the Delta, mainly for the use of agriculture, there is now very low productivity in the Delta's ecosystem. The Delta provides habitats for over 750 species, including 31 listed as threatened or endangered. It once supported the grizzly bear, gray wolf, and tule elk. The number of birds using the Delta has declined due to the land reclamation, although changes in the cropping patterns have allowed population of some species to increase. The Delta also serves as a critical link for fish to breed in its freshwater, and it is thought to be an important nursery for fish. But these fish have been declining because the pumps used to move the water are so powerful that they can reverse the direction of flow in the Delta, which drag along these fish. There are special screens for catching the fish to release them elsewhere, but unfortunately, many fish die in the process. Environmental laws that are already in place limit the water that it is pumped out of the Delta seasonally to protect its ecosystem. But this has resulted in a rise of water prices and the supply of water to become unpredictable to farmers, affecting their yields of crops. The ecosystem and farmers both need the Delta, but currently there is still a debate on how much water each side deserves. Sorry for making this.
Composed of 57 leveed island tracts and 700 miles of sloughs and widening channels, the Delta is a unique blend of small town communities, busy ship ports, farmlands, industries, highways, historical sites, and marinas. Today, the Delta is the hub of the state's water distribution system. Adult salmon that stray when they escape into non-natal streams to spawn is a natural phenomenon that promotes population growth and genetic diversity. But excessive stray rates impede restoration effects. Adult San Joaquin River Basin Chinook salmon return to fresh water to spawn. They migrate through the San Francisco Bay and San Joaquin River Delta. The Delta has been heavily affected by land development and water diversion, which has the potential to threaten the salmon migration. During the fall time period for the years 1979 to 2007, Delta pumping facilities diverted on average 340% of the total inflow volume that entered the Delta from the San Joaquin River. A few of the main businesses that the San Joaquin Delta supplies water for are the State Water Project, the Federal Central Valley Project, the Contra Costa Canal, the North Bay Aqueduct, the City of Viejo, the Western Delta Industry, and over 1,800 agricultural users. The Delta also supplies drinking water for 22 million people and supports California's $27 billion agricultural industry. Railways, highways, and utilities crisscross the Delta. Ships traveling up and down deep water channels to Sacramento and Stockton transport millions of tons of cargo to busy ports. Thousands of recreational boats use its other waterways. Smaller channels winding around levied inland tracts in search of prime fishing. Visitors flock to popular historical spots such as the town of Locke, a Chinese settlement once known for its culture and entertainment, as well as one of California's oldest hotels, Ride Hotel. So there is a tug of war between the major businesses and the stability of the environment. It's difficult to determine which side is more important to the greater good. All of these businesses depend on the San Joaquin River Delta and its constant supply of fresh water. And it's also a major responsibility for humans to protect the sensitive local habitats that many organisms rely on. A solution must be met in order to balance the needs of both the environmental and economic demands that the Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta struggles to uphold.
The problems facing the Delta are ones that need to be addressed as soon as possible. It seems that the battle for water between the Delta's ecosystem and the farmland of the state is a one-sided battle. The state prioritizes fresh water for the farmland. However, as the crisis of the ecosystem continues, more focus is brought upon it, and doing something to help it becomes more necessary. The question at hand is how to provide resources, mainly water, to successfully foster the growth of both. California already has some long-term solutions in place that are each focused on individual aspects of the multifaceted problem of the San Joaquin Sacramento River Delta. For example, the Fish Restoration Program agreement focuses on implementing the basic requirements needed to maintain a healthy aquatic environment for the Delta's fish. And the Delta Levee's Special Flood Control Project focuses on the flood control in the Delta region. Recently, Governor Jerry Brown announced a proposal that would build 2 large underground tunnels to transport water to already built state pumps to then be sent to the southern part of the state. According to the Los Angeles Times, this would increase the amount of water farms and families receive, lowering water prices, and the tunnel would also take much more water away from the ecosystem though. A similar plan by the governor failed to please voters 30 years ago when we voted against it. What needs to happen is the implementation of a concrete system of long-term projects and goals that would focus on the water efficiency and ecosystem revival. The Bay Delta Conservation Plan does just that. The Conservation Plan is a 50-year plan that regulates the projects already in place and other measures that will be taken, such as restoration measures and stressor reduction. Unlike other plans that focus on the individual species of animals in the Delta, the plan looks at the ecosystem as a whole. Some goals of this plan are identifying other possible areas suitable for expanding the current habitat, or prioritizing habitat restoration opportunities and finding ways of doing this, and finally evaluating these ideas based on current and future land use. This plan combines the resources of many agencies and allows for greater effectiveness. And with the continuous revising and adaptive planning, this program is essential to the future of the Delta.
She living, she golden, she lives for me. Says she lives for me, ovation.